these are challenging times. It's not just challenging times for individuals, families, but our family here in Coral Springs. We look at you as our citizens, as part of our family. We're here to help you however we can. So you're going to learn some great tips from a wonderful career consultant that happens to be in your neighborhood. His name is Ron. Susan's going to give a formal introduction.
My pleasure today to introduce our speaker today, and he has been a resident of Coral Springs since 1996, and he is the 2009 Coral Springs Chamber Small Business Leader of the Year. So Ron embraces two of the city's values in our mission statement. He lives and works and actually has raised his family in Coral Springs. So actually you embody our entire mission statement. So I'm very, very happy to have him here. His company is DMR Global, and his career is career consulting, counseling, executive search, and recruiting. And it is a pleasure to have Ron Daratany with us tonight. So welcome, Ron.
Thank you for coming tonight, and I'm hoping that I can share, as the mayor said, some valuable insight. Again, my name is Ron Daratany. I'm the president of DMR Global. We are a Coral Springs-based national recruiting, consulting, and outplacement firm. I'd like to give you just a brief background of my experience, because I found when I come to seminars and listen to people speak, I think their experience, their relevant experience, is what makes me pay attention a little bit more so. I think it makes their words a little bit more credible. So I've been involved in this business, this national recruiting and career consulting, for 20 years. That's all I've ever done. Our job as career consultants is to provide tools and insight necessary for someone to become more competitive for the fewer jobs which are available. With so many people vying for so few jobs, it's more important than ever to stand out and show how you can be an asset to a prospective company. So my job is to meet leaders, forge long-term business relationships, and represent these firms when their outplacement and recruiting needs arise. In essence, I'm interviewing all the time, and I'm being evaluated all the time, because as a small business owner, you're not just out there, you're interviewing. So the theories that I'm going to speak about today are theories that I use every day. So most of you are here today to learn about job search related topics which you can utilize immediately. Many of the topics I'll discuss you may have heard before, resumes and things of that nature, but perhaps I can highlight one technique that you'll bring home today which may help you and make a difference. So I'm going to share relevant career insight, provide examples, and answer questions in order for you to gain a competitive advantage over others that don't have this specific experience behind them. So, with very few jobs and positions available, it's very, very important to pay attention to specific details and make every step of your job search techniques and interview process as flawless as possible. Before we begin the career techniques portion of our discussion, let me just share some insight. If you recently lost your position, you may be experiencing a lot of emotions, self-doubt perhaps, not sure how to proceed in these unprecedented times. All of these feelings are normal, but the only thing that we must do now is put together a calculated job search and then implement it. We have to put that other stuff behind us because there's nothing we can do about that at this point. The first step in this process is to get your mind refocused and try to regain the confidence you had prior to losing your position. Just realize that you're no less talented today than you were yesterday. I mean, this is not your fault. You're not alone. This is the performance of the economy, and that's just the world in which we live in today. So please, if you're having any self-doubt because the positions are not there or you're not getting the results that you want, you're no less talented today than you were yesterday. So just keep that in your mind. If you're currently employed but unsure of your job status, now more than ever, you need to start your processes, start updating your resume. Just get your networking discreetly in place. Because what you want to do, if you are employed, is to give that employer no reason to let go of you. Make it very difficult for them to let go of you. So get your processes in place, but very discreetly. You don't want to jeopardize your current position. If you're a business owner, as I said earlier, the insight that we're going to speak about today is insight you should use as if you're a candidate looking for a position. Because everything that you do is going to be the same as if you're interviewing for a position. You're just interviewing for business. And that's what it's about. You must prepare as if it's a business interview. That's like a person searching for a position, the same thing. You just got to prepare as if it's a business interview. So let's not forget about, we have some first-time job seekers and people entering the job market, as if my friends over here might be re-entering the job market. All of this information is very relevant to you as well. So now I think I've covered everyone. So let's get to the meat of our discussion, talk about resumes, because the way I want to discuss it is I'm going to start with resumes. We're going to go to networking. So if the resumes and the networking work, that's going to result in an interview. Since I'm getting older, font size is very important. Arial 11, I think, is a good font size. Good use of paragraphs. You know, if it's all jumbled in one thing, it is difficult to read. And with employers looking at hundreds of resumes, they're going to just bypass it. If it's not pleasing to read, it's just going to be bypassed. So I would list most recent jobs first, including the company, title, dates, employed, and duties, responsibilities, and results. I know a lot of you probably have heard keep all of your information on one page. If you've been in the workforce for 15 years, 17 years, whatever it may be, it's impossible to put it on one page. So if you got a good summary of qualifications and you need 2 pages, 2 pages is okay, because if it's relevant, if the company sees you as a relevant person, they're going to scroll through where you've been, and they're going to look through that information. So I think that part is okay. Something that people may not put in their resumes is the usage of keywords. When I put together a website, my website, the optimization lady told me you have to sprinkle in keywords in all of your text. That way the search engines grab your text and then therefore grab your website. It's the same concept with resumes. If you're a specialist in accounting, you're a specialist in education, whatever it may be, you have to sprinkle keywords into that text, because today with modern technology, computers are pretty much extracting your resumes. Okay? A lot of companies have databases, and the way they extract their resumes is not going through 2,000 resumes by hand. They're putting in keywords, and they're extracting that information, and they're getting the results that they're looking for. It's the same thing when a recruiter or an employer is looking online on a monster. They're putting in keywords. So if you don't have the proper keywords that matches your job description, more than likely you're going to be bypassed for that position. So I think that's probably a good tidbit that most of you may have heard of but maybe not implement, is sprinkle the text in your text, your most important keywords in there, and hopefully when a company extracts it, they extract your name as well. I didn't spend too much time on resumes. I think a lot of you know what to do there, but what it comes down to is font, use of paragraphs, summary of qualifications, and very specific information. If there's too much text, they're not going to read it. So very, very specific. Okay, so now we got the resume portion down. Now we want to start using that resume and start networking. You've all heard this before. Let everyone in your network know that you're available. Put the ego to the side and let everyone know that you're available. Not only the people that you know, but who they know. Okay, I don't know if a lot of you do that, but what I do even in business, and I ask some of my friends here in the audience, I say, I'm looking to work with this particular company. Do you know somebody? Yes, I know somebody. Go to that person. They may not know somebody, but they'll know somebody. So use that networking opportunity, not just who you know, but who they know. Okay, so that's the first thing I would do. The whole objective is to get your name and resume into as many hands as possible, into as many avenues as possible, because it's a numbers game. The use of online networking sites. Does anybody use that, when they're searching for a job, just for a show of hands? Does anybody use that? Okay, good. Some people do. My company is on all those networking sites because I'm looking for business. I may not be looking for a specific individual job, but I'm looking for business. So LinkedIn falls in line specifically with what I said earlier, which is you have connections, and then you get the connections of the connections. It's the same concept. So if I'm looking for a job, I'm putting my information on as many of those online networking sites as possible, again, to hit the numbers. So my company is on all those networking sites. I'm not on there to share my kids' pictures or anything. I'm there to say this is what I do. But one thing I may caution you on those sites is be very careful with what you project on those sites. Because as much as it can work for you, it can also work against you. You might have had a great party with a bunch of friends. Somebody put that information on there. So if I'm looking to hire you and I did some background on you, all of those sites, I don't know if anyone has ever done this, all those sites come up on a search. If you put your name in and you're on Twitter and LinkedIn, it will show up on the search results. So if there's something that's not very flattering on there, that could be used against you as well. So I caution you to use them, but use them cautiously, because that could come back and just bite you, later on. What we're trying to do, it's all about credibility. So if there are little kinks in the credibility armor, it's going to create doubt for that particular employer. And with so many people vying for so few positions, we don't want to give them reasons to disqualify us. We have a great resume. We now know how to network. So now let's talk about how to maximize an interview opportunity. All right, maximizing an interview opportunity, preparation and attention to details are critical. I do it all the time. When I go out to a client, preparation for details critical. Shoes, suit, hair, details, 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 details. You're being evaluated and judged everything from your resume submittal to the final goodbye. Employers, unfortunately, because of the flood of applicants, are looking for reasons to disqualify. So if you give them the reason, you're going to disqualify, and the person behind you may have done that whole checklist and increased their probability of landing that position. A lot of us don't really realize, though, that body language is a very critical component that people look at. When I walked in the door, you were all checking me out. Fortunately, I hope you liked what you saw, but you may not have, But we all look at body language. We all look at it as a component. So in addition to what we're talking about, we're also looking at the body language. So what I'm really saying here is be cognizant of what you're projecting. We want to, we all know about dressing. We dress in a professional way. I prefer to be a little overdressed. I sometimes come in, look like a federal agent when I go into interviews, and but that's okay. I stand out, and that's kind of how I want to be. I want to stand out. It's not always the most appropriate, but I would prefer to be overdressed, especially if you don't know what the culture is of that particular company. Listening skills. I don't know if anyone pays attention too much to listening skills, but I can tell you that I teach my kids this. They have 2 ears and 1 mouth for twice as much listening. A lot of people don't subscribe to that. It took me a while to learn that, but I finally have learned that because you miss a lot of valuable information if you're so busy talking. So listening skills, very, very critical. Very, very critical. I mean, it shows a lot about the character. It shows a lot that you care. And if you're not listening, then you're missing details in which you could use to help in your interview. Ask questions. Now, when I go out on a business interview, I like to ask a lot of questions. Cindy knows that. Right, Cindy, before I joined the chamber, I think I was your worst person because I was asking an awful lot of questions. Asking questions, what you're doing is you're qualifying them. By asking questions, you're getting answers to your questions so you can then give back to them how your background fits what they're looking for. You can't sell if you don't know what you're selling. The reason we're here today is to tell you that you do have to be aware of what you project. It's very, very critical. If you don't know what you project, if you don't know how you come across during an interview, you better find out quickly. You should practice that interview. Another piece of advice I have is to just be you. I can tell you time and time and time again when I've interviewed people or people come to me for career advice, I can tell when they're not being themselves. I can tell when they're not being themselves. They're trying to project themselves as much bigger than they are, different personalities, and generally a good employer or a good person interviewing, a good HR person, generally can tell when you're not being yourself. At the end of the interview, close the deal. This is what I do. I have a good meeting with somebody. I usually know when that interview went well, and I'll tell them point blank, I really enjoyed meeting you. I feel I have the qualifications to do this job, and I want your business. Okay? Close it. Follow up with an email stating that same thing and why you're qualified for that position. Don't just say I'm a great person and I'm good. Why? What did you get out of that interview that can demonstrate that you have the necessary skills in which to do that? Close the deal. So even, not exactly closing yet, but even if you think you aced that particular interview, many people stop interviewing or stop their process of networking if they had a good interview. Now they're waiting for that phone to ring for a phone offer. Now 1 week passes by, 2 weeks passes by, and they still didn't get that offer, but they walked out feeling pretty good. That's the worst thing you can do, is stop your processes. Until you have that offer in your hand, until that offer is signed, until you're sitting in that desk, your networking should never stop. It'll be great to have more than one employment option. But I want to caution you, these techniques that I have demonstrated or I've shared with you today will increase the probabilities of getting these positions. We'll increase them. It's no guarantee. But what we're trying to do is eliminate the mistakes, add to our list of good things, And don't give the employers reason to knock you out for something like a cell phone. We don't want them to do that. But we're trying to increase the probabilities, and that's what I tell people. You want to increase the probabilities and eliminate the mistakes, so increase them. But by being cognizant of what we're projecting, how we're sounding, all of these good things increases the probabilities. And moving closer to the front of the line. So if there's a stack of resumes this high, and you've implemented all these techniques that we're talking about, you're going to move up that ladder a little bit more so. But if you don't, you're going to move down the chain a little bit more so. So we want to move closer to it by eliminating certain mistakes.